Can you explain your process for building MLB lineups on a slate like tonight? We have gotten this question a few times. I think last time we took a look at a question like this, it was on a bit of a smaller MLB slate. Yeah, I would be happy to go through a little bit of this here. I think you're going to see some common trends as we get to doing a few more of these. So let me go ahead and pull up SaberSim here. All right, so we've got it up. So let's talk about a little bit of a bigger slate tonight. Maybe the ways things we're thinking about, how we want to use the tool, or at least how we want to get started with our process, right? So one thing we've kind of hit pretty hard so far when we've been doing these office hour sessions is the importance of a test build to get an idea of where the baselines are for the slate. And I think that's an important thing to look at, but I'm going to start a little bit earlier here today and really emphasize some of the things we can do even before our step or even before building our first build and just get familiar with the slate overall. So one thing I like to do, back to basics, right? It's a 13-game slate. Start thinking about what that means. And a good way to do that is to look at the sliders. On a 13-game slate, we're going to need a little bit less leverage over the field just because there's so many more options. There's going to be a lot of players that are just playing suboptimal plays. The leverage we need over the field is a little bit lower on a night like tonight. So baseball, still a very variant sport. We are still going to have a moderately high ownership fade, but it's going to be a little bit lower than some of those high ownership fades we see on the 6-game slate like we had yesterday, for example. Smart diversity is going to come down just a tad. We are a little bit more willing to rely on some median projections for a slate like this, just because, again, there's a lot of plays here. There's a lot of places where people can just go wrong and pick suboptimal plays. Correlation's still going to be very high. We still want those big stacks. We probably want much bigger stacks actually tonight on a big slate like this, because the potential outcome of a team going off and hitting that absolute ceiling is a lot higher with 26 teams playing ball here. So a few other things worth noting right out of the gate. I like to get an idea of where the perceived hitting spots are going to be on a slate like tonight and where SaberSim's, so where the public's perceived hitting spots are on a slate like tonight and where SaberSim's perceived hitting spots are. So just a quick look around. Again, this is all ahead of a test build, so we're going to get some more insights once we run a test build. But we see the Yankees, Braves, Twins, Angels, all over 5 implied runs by SaberSim. So starting to get an idea of where some hitting opportunities may be. In general, it looks like a slate that is probably pretty pitching focused based on some of the totals we're seeing here. And obviously, there's already been a lot of discussion in the MLB channel about that. We've got a ton of aces on the mound tonight. Just in general, a very strong pitching slate overall. So that kind of correlates with what we're seeing on the run totals here. Another thing I like to do early on, again, just to get an idea, get familiar with the slate, is to look at where Vegas has some of these teams and see just where potential outliers may be. So that process can be a little bit more involved. I'm not going to go super in depth into that right now, but it's pretty easy to pull up maybe one of your preferred books and get an idea. But a few things I noted just in some of my early reviews today is that we are under on the Giants relatively. Vegas has the Giants as another one of those teams that's over 5 runs. And we are very bullish on this game overall as a hitting environment. We are over on the Rangers and we are over on the Angels. Part of which makes this very interesting is that Andrew Heaney, we have him projected well. He's probably the best value pitching play on the slate. Second best, but he is probably going to be very chalky tonight. He is becoming the SP2 of choice on DraftKings, it looks like, around the industry. So a few things I am just looking at so far. I saw Jack Fishman said free the luscious locks in the YouTube chat. Maybe at the end of the show we'll do a special let the hair down moment. But so real quick, that's just kind of what I'm thinking about as I'm my first impressions looking at the slate, right? We've been talking about this for a couple minutes here. Austin said in YouTube chat, did you say under on the Giants? I believe that is true. Yeah, I mean, at least what I'm looking at right now, I'm typically seeing the Giants at around 5-1, 5-2 runs. We've got them at 4-8, so just very slightly under on that implied run total. Again, just things I'm kind of paying attention to or looking at here. But let's go ahead and look at our test build and then just kind of see what we're getting out of this. So we will run a quick build here. Yeah, and also with this stuff, again, it's noon here where I'm at. We're 5 hours before lock. The closer you do this kind of stuff to lock, the better. The lines are going to move quite a bit. So keep an eye out. I wouldn't take anything. This is, again, definitely not intended to be kind of a pick show, but more just thinking about process, right? So we can see how things are starting to shake out. We've got a few of our favorite aces here at the top for pitching. We've got a little bit of Heaney as well. Relatively condensed pitching core with some of the aces at top here. So let me see here. And then let's go ahead and see what our stacks are looking like. So first of all, we've got our similar big stacks up top, a lot of 5-3, a lot of 5-2, a lot of 4-4, 1-4-3 stack. So this all kind of correlates with what we were expecting. I guess backing up a little bit, what we're doing here now in the step 2 is really checking our priors. The thoughts and things we noticed, thinking about the context of the slate in step 1, we're now kind of looking, what does now SaberSim really think when we allow a build to run? So we start looking at some of these stacks. We've got Twins up top, our biggest stack. I think they are likely to be one of the chalkiest stacks of the night. We noticed also that was a stack that both Vegas and SaberSim had highly, so we see that here. Texas, we had picked out, is an interesting leverage spot, right? We've already noted that Heaney's likely to be pretty popular. We are over on the Rangers comparatively to Vegas, so this might be kind of one of those leverage teams. The Angels, same deal, right? A team that we are a little bit higher on Vegas. So we can see, as our opinions of this slate are starting to develop, what are we doing, right? We're taking a few shots on this Texas and Angels game, spreading out exposure to stacks from there. Generally, I would say picking out probably every lineup here is either going to have DeGrom or Scherzer. A couple of them are going to have both, so we're paying up for those expensive pitching. Willing to play a little Heaney where we are not fading him to play Ranger stacks. So just getting an idea of the slate. From there, you can do some of the things we have talked about before with adjusting your batting exposure. So if we look at batting, we're relatively spread out to begin with, but always fine to start dropping some of these down if we don't want to be overly exposed, especially to a 9-hole batter. Maybe we drop him down to 20, and we just start bringing some of these down to a little better range. 35 already starts feeling a lot better. Looking at this earlier, another thing I was thinking is we're quite a bit over on the Rangers right now. If the slate were starting soon, one thing I might do is maybe drop this down a little bit and be willing to get 20% of my stacks for the Rangers, but I don't maybe want 40%. Or another way to accomplish this might be to bring us a little bit closer to Vegas here, maybe split the difference. So just things I would be thinking about approaching a slate like tonight. Obviously, again, there's not really a wrong answer here when you're at step 3. A lot of this is about risk tolerance. So if you are a much more player willing to accept some volatility in your lineups, and you want to condense and you want to kind of play a little bit of a tighter pool, maybe what you are doing instead is chopping off some pitchers off the bottom here, tightening up a pitching pool. So let's say we've at least got 2 lineups with every pitcher or something like that. And maybe we're saying, we actually really like the edge we have with the Rangers tonight. And I want 75% of my lineups to be Ranger stacks. And I'm playing a tight pitching pool. I'm playing a ton of Ranger stacks. And I'm a volatile player that I want to play kind of first or last type lineups. And that's the way I'm approaching this slate. So again, all relying on the same pool of 500 viable lineups that fit a contest type like this. So Not really so much of a wrong answer here when we're thinking about it, but just what your risk aversion and how spread out you want to be amongst your pool of lineups. So that would be, again, about how I would kind of think about my lineup process for tonight, or at least a starting point.